Mike Begovic!
Welcome to my show. My name is Mike Begovic. My show is A Tall Glass of Vode. You're probably wondering why it's called that, A Tall Glass of Vode. And I'm not going to wait. I'm going to tell you. When I was younger, some people, like mostly my sports coaches, would call me a tall glass of water because I'm really tall and skinny. Never knew if it was a compliment or an insult. One of my favorite movies of all time is The Shawshank Redemption. In that movie, Andy, the main character, is going into prison for the first time. And all of the other prisoners are like screaming at him and making fun of him. And Morgan Freeman, who narrates the movie, is like, I didn't think much of Andy the first time I saw him. Looked like he'd be blown away with the wind. And then another prisoner's like, yeah, look at that tall glass of water. So, that's pretty accurate. If there was a hurricane out there, I would not be a good choice for something to hold on to. I played American sports like when I was younger, American football and basketball, and being tall and skinny was not really great for those sports because those are like physical contact sports. And you know, I think about it, and in hindsight, the sport that I should have played that would have been perfect for me is volleyball, right? But the thing is, volleyball wasn't really viewed like it is here now. Like when I was growing up, if you were a man playing volleyball, that was gay. It was a women's sport. Very homophobic times when I was growing up in the early 2000s. Like so many things were considered gay in America in the early 2000s when I was growing up. Playing some sports, volleyball, gay. Soccer was gay. Using anything like other than a normal wallet, that was a man purse, that was gay. Wearing like tight jeans, that was really gay. Dressing like... Did you just comment on my jeans?
It is still.
I disagree. What else? Yeah, like trying to dress too nice, gay. You know, being really into like perfumes and how you smelled, gay. Driving a tiny car, gay. By the standards that I grew up with, 50% of the men in Europe, gay. Europe's always been like a little more forward thinking. I feel like what was gay in the US was trendy in Europe and would soon be trendy in the US in like 5 to 10 years, you know, as a general rule. It just makes me wonder though, like here in Europe, what was considered gay by like homophobic teenagers in the early 2000s? You know, like, was it the opposite? You know, I'm picturing like a couple of teenagers, 12-year-old kids in early 2000s Zagreb. Luca, what's up, bro? Hey, did you see Tomislav's loose-fitting jeans? He's so gay, bro. Hey, Tomislav, nice loose-fitting jeans. Hey, I'm going skydiving tomorrow. I need a parachute. Can I use your jeans? You're so gay, bro. By the way, is that a new man purse? By the way, love those heels, and you are killing it with that man thong. Totally different standards in Europe. I'm from the US. I moved to Zagreb like 2 years ago. And when I first came to Zagreb, I knew nothing about Zagreb. I had no idea what to expect. And when I moved here, like any tourist, I went to the center. I hung out a lot in the center. And I'm walking around thinking, wow, Zagreb is such a lovely city. It's so charming. Very different than Detroit. That's where I'm from, Detroit. Night and day. And then, you know, as I got settled in, of course I went to other parts of the city. And then, you know, I thought to myself, Zagreb is actually kind of similar to Detroit. There's graffiti everywhere. There's a lot of like old rundown buildings that don't really look like they're being used for anything. Very similar. I could get used to this. But I like that, you know, to me that says that a city has like character. You know, I like a sketchy, grimy city. I was like, okay, I can handle this. I know what to expect. And then one night when I first got here, I was walking home. It was really late at night, and it was by the train tracks. And I'm looking around. I see graffiti, like old rundown buildings. The lighting is very poor. I'm thinking to myself, this is not good. Did not put myself in a good situation here. And then I see this guy, tough looking guy, he's just walking right up to me, looking me right in the eyes. At this point I'm thinking, I'm so fucked. I'm so fucked. He gets close to me and, you know, I don't want to deal with it. I just take out my wallet, I'm like, just take it, man. Like, just take it. I don't want any problems. And he's like, no. I'm just looking for the train station. Do you know where the train station is? Oh, the train station. Okay. He's like, yeah, I'm not from here. I'm from Bosnia. I'm like, Bosnia? Just take it, bro. You need it more than me. God bless you, sir. The easiest way to get a laugh in Croatia is shit on Bosnia. Learn that. But now I know. You know, you live and you learn. That's the great thing about living abroad. You have expectations, and then you're proven wrong. And I just love that feeling of like being humbled. You know, I think humans really need that. Now I know that in Croatia, you know, you probably wouldn't get stabbed by like a random person late at night. You might get stabbed at like a football match, and that's like probably the only place, you know. In America, you might get stabbed anywhere but a football match. So that seems like backwards to me, you know. You guys take your sports very seriously here. You know, it gets pretty violent, pretty rowdy. In the US, you know, we also get violent and rowdy. We like to fucking rage too. But, you know, we do it for important causes. Like trying to overthrow a democratically elected president. My man here likes the political jokes. Yeah, you know, I feel like Zagreb is maybe, you guys would probably agree with this, it's like 10, 15 years behind the rest of the West, right, in many ways. That's kind of cool, though. It's kind of cool. One thing I love about Croatia is that there's still no political correctness here. You know, we have a lot of that in the West. Yeah, you're at a comedy show. You should share that. No political correctness here. And, you know, Croatia hasn't met like the minimum threshold of diversity for political correctness. I learned that, you know, when I first got here, I watched a Croatian movie on Netflix called The Last Serb in Croatia. Have you guys seen this movie? Yeah. It's a great movie. A real masterpiece. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. It's a comedy, and in the movie there's an outbreak of a virus, and it turns everyone into zombies in Croatia. But here's the catch. The virus doesn't infect Serbians, which is like one guy, you know, one of the main characters in the movie. So I'm watching this movie thinking to myself, oh my fucking God, you can make a movie like this in 2024? Crazy. Crazy. You could never make a movie like that in the US. You know, way too much political correctness. I mean, just imagine if I went to Hollywood and I tried to pitch a movie like that. If I went to a bunch of like Hollywood producers and I was like, okay, I have this great idea for a movie. Yeah, it's a comedy, keep that in mind. There's an outbreak of a virus, right? I know, typical. But here's the catch. The virus doesn't infect Jews. Yeah, it's called The Last Jew in America. It's not racist, it's a comedy. Oh, I'll take my idea to the Balkans. They still appreciate a little lighthearted racism. Yeah, that idea would be rejected by Hollywood. And it makes sense. It makes sense because, in all seriousness, you shouldn't make art that singles out one group of people. And also, Hollywood is run by Jews, so I shouldn't say that. No, it's okay. It's okay. Actually, my mom is Jewish. My mom is Jewish, and my dad is from here, so I'm like half Jewish, half Croatian, which is great. I love it. But sometimes it can be a little problematic, and I'll tell you why. If, for example, at a store or a market and I'm thinking about buying something, I get a little conflicted. My Jewish side will be telling me, don't buy that, too expensive. You can probably find that cheaper somewhere else. Just look. And then my Croatian side will push back. My Croatian side will be like, that's ridiculous, just buy it. Just buy the damn thing. And then complain about how you got ripped off later. Over coffee. During your 3-hour coffee break. And my Jewish side is like, 3-hour coffee break? We gotta work, we got bills to pay, come on! Yeah, as an American, one thing I've learned is that I think Americans are really obsessed with race and racial identity. We really are. In Europe, you guys are more progressive about most things, right? You guys have free university education, free healthcare, good public transportation. We don't have those things. But I think America is actually a little more progressive on one thing. Attitudes toward race. I think we have you guys beat there. Because we understand that race is flexible. It's flexible. And I think in Europe, you guys still think that race is tied to biology, right? Because Europe was kind of founded on nationalism. And here's an example. A few years ago, we were the first country to recognize transracial people. We had a woman who came out and she identified as black, but she was born in a white woman's body. And, she wanted to be herself. She lived her whole life as a black woman. Everyone thought she was black, just really light-skinned. And then her parents outed her. They said, no, our daughter is white. We have a white daughter. They did not accept her for who she is. And I think that's terrible. She got a lot of hate, especially from conservatives. Conservatives have always had an issue with trans anything, right? But I think I know why conservatives would have an issue with transracials. Because if everyone just started identifying as a white American, who are they going to keep out of the country with the giant border wall? And who are they going to blame for stealing the jobs of hardworking white Americans? Yes, transracials have been around for a while. They've just been in the closet because we never accepted them as a society. Look, for example, at Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson stayed in the closet. He never came out as transracial. Even though he was clearly transracial, he was a black guy who identified as a white guy. And he changed his appearance to become a white guy and tried to hide it and just thought we'd all forget about it. Poor Michael Jackson. He went through all that treatment Oh wait, we have some Michael Jackson haters in the audience. They're loving this. Michael Jackson went through all that treatment to change his body to try to become a white guy, you know. I'm totally okay with transracials, really. I just think if you're gonna transition, you need to be consistent. You can't like pick and choose, right? If, for example, you're like Michael Jackson and you know, you're a black guy, you were born in a black body, and you identify as white, you cannot go to your doctor and be like, okay, I want to become a white dude. So, like, change my skin, you know, make my nose smaller, make my, like, leg muscles weaker. Totally fine with that. Just, you know, I don't want to change my... You know, like, I want to keep the size of my, you know. And the doctor's like, sir, I'm sorry, we just offer one white man package, and it makes everything smaller, including your lips. That's what you're talking about, right? I think, you know, Michael Jackson, maybe he was providing some like words of encouragement to transracials everywhere. Maybe he was like coming to them in their dreams and was like, don't worry, because the thing about my baby, it don't matter if you're black or white. Michael Jackson had the first transracial anthem. That was a fucking transracial anthem. He was saying, don't judge me because I identify as a white guy. It doesn't matter. I think more people should like take a page out of Michael Jackson's book. You know, like I think Kim Kardashian should come out with a song with the lyrics, it doesn't matter if your ass is small or big. Asses, we should love them all. And then she can be like, this song has a deeper underlying message, right? It's saying, don't judge me because I identified as a girl with a big ass and then transitioned so that my appearance would match my inner self. I'm a huge fan of DNA tests, those DNA tests that like tell you what your heritage is. Very popular in the US. You know, those ads, they're selling something great, which is like a sense of identity, right? They're like, learn who you really are. And it's really effective, you know, for a lot of privileged, mixed up white people that don't know like where they came from. And they have very great, very powerful commercials. Their commercials are something like this. Usually they have like a random person just doing an interview in front of a camera. And it goes something like this. Hi, I'm Mark Stevenson. I recently did a DNA test with 23andMe and found out that I'm 10% Scottish. I had no idea. It's been so great connecting with my Scottish heritage. Yeah, I started playing the bagpipes, and I even started wearing a kilt. It's totally not gay. In Europe. They could have much better ads if they weren't constrained by political correctness. Their ads are so sanitized. They could have much better, more appealing commercials. Something like this. Hi, I'm Mark Stevenson. I recently did a DNA test with 23andMe and found out that I'm 0.5% black. I had no idea. It's been so great connecting with my black heritage. I got more confidence on the dance floor. I started listening to rap music other than Drake. And when I get angry, nobody fucks with me. Much better, much better. Or, alternatively, something like this. Hi, I'm Mark Stevenson. I recently did a DNA test with 23andMe and found out that I'm 0.5% Native American. I had no idea. It's been so great connecting with my Native American heritage. By connecting with my Native American heritage, I was able to get into Harvard. I never would have been able to do that as a plain white dude. Thanks, 23andMe. I love Croatia, I really do. One thing I love about Croatians is how humble Croatians are. I think Croatians are very humble about their own culture. I'll give you an example. A while back I went to the bookstore, the one in the main square, and I was looking for a textbook to help me learn Croatian. So I go in there and they have a huge language section. Books for learning every language, German, Spanish, French, whatever. I walk up to an employee and I say, hey, do you have a book for learning Croatian? I don't see one here. And he goes, Croatian? I don't think we have one. I could see this guy's brain exploding because someone asked for a book to learn Croatian in Croatia. I was also looking for a book on Croatian history. I wasn't even going to bother asking. I know what the response would have been. Croatian history. Maybe you can try Russian history or German history. Way more important, much better use of your time. Trust me. One more example of that. A while back I was standing in line at a kebab shop. And there's this delivery driver that comes up to pick up food. He looks like he's maybe from India. And there's this older Croatian guy there, and he just starts saying some shit to him. And it seems kind of hostile to me, Maybe just because he was older, but it really seemed hostile. And I thought to myself, okay, there's that Croatian nationalism that I kind of hear about. You got that everywhere. Anti-immigrant sentiment, nationalism. And the Indian guy, much to his credit, was kind of just ignoring this guy. So then this Croatian guy says to him, hey, if you're going to live here, you should learn a little Croatian. And I'm just standing there thinking, oh my God, am I hearing this right? If you're going to live here, you should learn a little Croatian. That's it? Just a little? Even Croatian nationalists think it's unreasonable to learn full Croatian. I cannot imagine that type of scene playing out in the US, right? Just imagine some pro-America, flag-waving guys at a Trump rally. He overhears some people speaking Spanish. He goes up to them and he's like, hey, this is America. Speak English. A little English. The basics. Hey, it's a difficult language, and not everyone grows up speaking it, and you gotta respect that. I never learned another language, and hey, that's on me. That's on me. That's how we're gonna make America great again, and we gotta respect other cultures, Is anybody in here religious? Of course not. No one would. It's like the Tinder question. People don't want to admit that. Croatia's a pretty religious country. I know it's very Catholic. When I came here, I thought the bar for being religious was really high in Croatia because it's such a Catholic country. And I've never been a huge fan of religion. I don't go to church. It's not that I think religion is 100% wrong. I'm not convinced. It's just that I'm lazy, and church is not comfortable. They usually don't have AC, the benches are really hard. So I don't go. But, I'm getting older, and I'm starting to think, maybe I should get back into religion, just in case it's right. And what I like about Croatia is that I've noticed that the bar for being religious here, actually kind of low. It really surprised me. I live across the street from a church, and I noticed this thing that happens here. I've never seen this anywhere else in the world. They have speakers that broadcast the Mass, and then people will stand outside and just listen to the Mass and attend church. I've never seen that anywhere. I guess the church set up these speakers, and I'll see people there in sweatpants, smoking cigarettes, on their phone. And then, they broadcast it so loud through these speakers that there's a cafe across the street. You can hear it from the cafe, And people do, I'm telling you, they sit there and they fucking listen. And they're like, I'm attending Mass, yeah. So now I'm starting to think that I can be religious in Croatia. Sign me up for the religion comfort plan. I can do that. And then when my time comes, my soul will go up to heaven, and God will be there checking people in, and he'll be like, "Oh, Mr. Begovic, tell me, my son, were you a religious man?" "Oh, yes, Lord. I drifted away. I drifted in my 20s, but I came back to it in my 30s. Started going to Mass regularly." "That's good to hear, my son. Let me just check the tapes really quick." Are you talking on your cell phone? Are you sitting at a cafe? What makes you think that's an acceptable way to worship? Well, I identify as Croatian. Croatian. I see, pomalo. Well, I did make you all that way. Right this way through the pearly gates, enjoy your time in heaven. One thing, there's so much funny shit about America, and I think one of the funniest and saddest things is our addiction to prescription drugs. We love prescription drugs in America. I read a statistic a while back. The United States is 3% of the world's population, and we consume 50% of the world's prescription drugs. Yeah, pretty shocking. Which raises an interesting question. Is it that Americans are just that much more fucked up than everyone? Or is it just that we have prescription drugs pushed on us? And I think it's both, actually. I think it's both. For example, we have commercials advertising for prescription drugs. I think we're the only country that allows this. Just like you would see a commercial for Nike or Doritos, you'll see a commercial for Adderall or Prozac. And the commercials are, if you haven't seen them, you should definitely check them out. I'm speaking this woman's language right here. I love the validation you're giving me. No, the commercials are really funny. They'll show someone who is just really struggling. It's black and white. They can't get out of bed. They can't fuck their wife. They can't live a normal life. And then they show the after they've taken the drug, and the sun is shining, they're climbing a mountain, presenting their idea to a bunch of investors. It's really funny. And then you hear the voiceover, right? It's are you experiencing bouts of sadness? You may have depression. Talk to your doctor about Prozac. Side effects may include loss of bladder control, mood swings, headaches, worsening depression, suicidal thoughts, and death. That's the legal disclaimer they have to give you. And I always thought that was unfair. I thought that was unfair to the prescription drug companies because, when you watch a commercial for like Doritos, at the end you don't see something like that. You don't see side effects may include cheesy fingers, sticky fingers, weight gain, diarrhea, gas, bloating, worsening depression, suicidal thoughts, and death. All possible side effects. It's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope to death. We also have a lot of commercials for politics, like for politicians, especially it's an election year now, and you just get bombarded with these political commercials. The political commercials are just as funny because they're really like over dramatic, right? Political commercials like play on your fear. And for example, like you've got the Republicans and Democrats. Republicans are pro-gun and anti-immigration, right? So Republicans will run commercials like this. Thousands of illegal immigrants are pouring into the border under Joe Biden's open borders policy. They're coming to rape and kill you and your family. Democrats are coming for your guns. Vote Republican. We'll protect you from illegal immigrants. And if you're worried about all of the millions of Americans with guns, talk to your doctor about Prozac. Prozac, proud partner of the Republican Party's efforts to keep guns legal in America. Living in Croatia, I just don't think Croatia would be a good market for prescription drugs. I really don't. I'm imagining, if I worked for a prescription drug company, and I came to Croatia to see if Croatia was, a good market for prescription drugs, I think it would play out something like this. Hello, yes. Yes, Mr. Bernstein, I'm here. Yeah, listen, I've been here for 3 days. It's not going to work. No. You should see these people. There's no anxiety or depression here. None. Yeah, and one other thing, they're already taking something. Yeah. Beat us to the market, I guess. What is it? Coffee. Just coffee. Yeah. So we were totally cool with prescription drugs, but when I was growing up in the early 2000s, people were really paranoid about illegal drugs and alcohol. If you were a parent, that was your worst fear, that your teenager would get involved with drugs and alcohol and then end up dead in a ditch somewhere. That was the fear. And we had we had a lot of anti-drug commercials, messaging, to try to discourage teenagers from using drugs. And these commercials were just ridiculous. And they were on all the time. If you watched MTV or Comedy Central, you would always see these commercials running. There's one commercial that I still remember to this day. The commercial goes like this. The camera fades in, and we see a girl sitting on the sofa. But she doesn't look like a normal girl. She looks like she's made of Play-Doh, and she's melted into the sofa. And then you hear a voice from off screen. Jessica! Jessica! And then the camera shows a normal-looking teenager who's like, she can't answer you. She won't. She's been like this ever since she started using drugs. Fade to black. Sponsored by the Partnership for a Drug-Free America. That's what they came up with. You know, a bunch of creative people were sitting around a table and they were like, you know, let's focus on the high itself, not the consequences. So, you know, 16-year-old me is sitting there watching this like, damn, Jessica is in another dimension. She is like in another fucking universe. She probably doesn't have a care in the world. That doesn't seem so bad. You know, 16-year-old me has all these problems, like I'm not doing well in school, the girl that I like won't go out with me, but if I was like Jessica, no problems. Yeah, they really went hard on drugs. We also had a lot of commercials to try to discourage people from smoking cigarettes. Like in the 90s and the early 2000s, we went hard on cigarettes. You know, because we realized that like, hey, smoking is bad for you. It's bad for public health, so we should try to discourage people from smoking cigarettes. And those commercials were fucking powerful. I mean, they were spot on and very effective. In those commercials, they had no animation, none of that bullshit. They just had real people, ex-smokers, talking directly to a camera, and they would say something, you know, these are people who got fucked up from smoking cigarettes, and they had like a hole in their throats, right? And so they would talk to a camera, and they, you know, have to use one of those machines that makes you sound like you're half robot. And they would say something like this. I was a smoker for 15 years. I thought smoking was cool. And, you know, watching that, I'm like, damn, that sucks. You should have just done hard drugs. You would have been melted into the sofa like Jessica. You know, but those ads were so like powerful and effective. Like for example, you know, when I was like a teenager, me and my friends, we did hard drugs, we drank alcohol, didn't go near cigarettes. We'd be partying, we'd be like smoking weed, doing other drugs, drinking alcohol, and then we would look at the few kids, there were a few, who were smoking cigarettes, and we'd look at them with disgust. We'd be like, damn, cigarettes? Those kids are fucking crazy. They are really rolling the dice with their own health. Haven't they seen those commercials? They're gonna get a fucking hole in their throat. But you know, it was very effective. Like smoking plummeted in the U.S. It's not cool to smoke cigarettes anymore in the U.S. And I noticed, you know, like here in Croatia, you guys like made a small effort to discourage it. You guys have those images on cigarette packs, which we actually don't have. We don't have that. And you guys still don't give a fuck. It's so funny. So funny. I'm sure like even if those commercials aired in Croatia, people would be like, hole in the throat. I live in Croatia. What have I got to lose? Smoke up. And no, it was good what we did. And we actually made the tobacco companies pay for those ads, right? Which makes sense. Like if you make a harmful product, you should have to pay to raise awareness about how harmful your product is, right? That makes sense. Nowadays, I think the biggest threat to teenagers is not drugs and alcohol. It's TikTok and social media.
Yeah.
You know, if I was a parent, I'm not a parent, you can probably tell. If I was a parent, my biggest fear would not be that my teenager was getting involved with drugs or alcohol. My biggest fear would be that my teenager became addicted to social media. Really. Like if I saw my teenage son and he was just sitting there scrolling away on TikTok, you know, I'd go up to him. Johnny, what's going on, buddy? What are you doing? TikTok again, huh? Well, listen, pal. Don't tell your mom this, but put a 12-pack of beer in your car and some weed. Why don't you go like hang out with your friends? You know? Get off of TikTok.
Yeah. I agree.
But you know, we let social media companies off the hook. You know, we don't go hard on social media companies, and I think we should. I think we should go hard on them because they're making a harmful product just like the tobacco companies. I think every time a teenager opens TikTok, they should see an ad like this. The camera fades in, and we see Johnny melted into the sofa, scrolling away on TikTok. And then you hear a voiceover. Johnny! Hey, Johnny! Hey, Jessica? You know that girl you like? She's outside. She wants to hang out. Dude, I think she wants to give you a blowjob. And then there'll be a normal-looking teenager who's like, he can't. He's been like this ever since he started using TikTok. Fade to black. Sponsored by the Chinese Communist Party. So, like growing up in the U.S., you know, the drinking age is 21, as I'm sure you guys know. And you know, you can like drive a car at 16. You can consent to having sex at 16. You can buy a gun at 18. Can't drink until you're 21. We've decided that having sex, driving, and fucking, all less important than drinking. So like, you know, if you're like me, you know, a lot of teenagers, like you have to find creative ways to get alcohol when you're 16 or 17. It's not relaxed like it is here in Croatia. So, you know, me and my friends, we had to think of creative ways, so we had a lot of different methods to try to get alcohol. Our parents were not going to buy us alcohol. They weren't. So one of these methods that we had was called Hey Mister. Hey Mister involves sitting in the parking lot of a store that sells alcohol and then going up to a random person and being like, hey mister, you're looking swell today. Hey, do you think you could buy some alcohol for me and my friends? And of course, it never worked. It was humiliating. And of course, it's called Hey Mister because you have to ask a guy. And you have to ask a guy because only a guy would buy alcohol for underage teenagers. You know. Ladies, we've made a lot of progress, but there's some jobs that only a man can do still. It never worked. But eventually, you know, me and my friends found this guy who was willing to buy alcohol for me and my friends. We kind of knew him, but we thought of him as our permanent Hey Mister. This guy's name was Steve. Steve was in his 40s, single, lived in an apartment by himself. He worked a job at Bush's, which is a grocery store. usually a job just for teenagers. Steve had the perfect CV for a hey mister. You could not come up with a better CV for a hey mister. So, Steve started buying us alcohol. And by buying us alcohol, I mean we would give him the money and then he would buy it for us. And in exchange, we pretended to be friends with Steve. Don't judge until you've been a teenager in America desperate for alcohol. Yeah, it was great. Everyone got something out of that relationship. Me and my friends got alcohol. Steve got, the feeling of being a sugar daddy without having to spend any of his own money. It was a little creepy. It was a little weird. We knew that it was weird. It felt wrong. It felt shady, but we still did it. And we actually kind of became better friends with Steve. We started going to his apartment. Steve treated us well. He would offer us like free weed. And, we really appreciated Steve. I mean, ladies, like you know how this is, right? Like you finally find a man who's willing to like look after you and take care of you, and like you want to treat your man right, And then other people get jealous and they start to creep in on him. And that's what happened with Steve. Other teenagers would come for him. I had to be like, bitch, you better stay away from my man. And it was cool. We would go to Steve's, but we were careful. We were careful. We had a rule. Never go to Steve's alone. Only together as a group. Strength in numbers. And this is at a time when one of the most popular shows in America is To Catch a Predator. That's a show about pedophiles trying to meet young men, okay? That's how desperate you are as a teenager in America. Steve was one of those guys who took like way too much acid in the 80s, so he spoke a little slower than the average person. He would be like, "Hey guys, I bought you some Budweiser because they didn't have any Heineken at the store. Is that all right?" And it was cool. My parents knew about Steve, but they didn't really know about Steve. And I hated lying to my mom because my mom is like a human lie detector. So a scene like this would play out at my house. "Michael, where are you going?" "Oh, I'm going to Steve's." "Oh, who is Steve? Does he play on the football team?" No, he doesn't." "Oh, do I know Steve's parents?" No, I don't think so." "Oh, well, what does Steve do?" I don't know. I mean, he has a job. He works at Bush's." "Oh, honey, that's so great that you have responsible friends. Invite Steve over to the house sometime." My mom always tried to instill in me good values. And she had this saying, like every time I was leaving the house, she would say to me, "Bye, Michael. Make good choices today." I mean, really, I'm not joking. She would say that unironically every time I was leaving the house. And if she only knew what good choices I was making. I mean, really, like all the other teenagers out there are, paying $20 a gram for weed and smoking it in public places where they could get caught. And I was getting free weed, smoking it under the safety of Steve's house. So, you're probably wondering what happened to Steve. Well, first let me say, I learned a lot from my relationship with Steve. Really. The most important lesson that I learned from my friendship with Steve was don't grow up to be like Steve. I was not a good student. I got to university and I was like, damn, I need to get my shit together. Don't want to end up like Steve. And that's why I think every teenager should have an older friend like Steve. For perspective, to show you like a glimpse of a possible future. I mean, that was more important than any like classroom lecture I ever got. You're probably wondering like what happened to Steve. Well, we got older and then we went to university and we kind of moved on from Steve. We forgot about him. And I'm sure Steve found another group of teenagers to buy alcohol for, But you might be sitting there, judging me, thinking like, that was wrong, because you're really holding Steve back. You're holding him back. And to that I would say, from what? From what? Steve was hanging out with teenagers and buying them alcohol. Was he gonna get his shit together and like climb up the corporate ladder? Become CEO or something? Steve was working at a grocery store, okay? Not for P. Diddy. It was kind of wrong though, and it's never good to use someone. And I look back on that and I do feel a little bad, a little guilty, because we were using Steve and maybe we were holding him back. It was dangerous. It was risky what we were doing, going up to random people and asking them for alcohol or becoming friends with older guys just so they'll buy you alcohol. It was risky. We should not have done that. Because there's a lot of psychopaths and creeps out there who would take advantage of you. And it's usually those people that are willing to take risks, right? Because they're getting something out of it. But I think, we spent all this time and energy trying to warn kids about the dangers of using drugs and alcohol. And I think we should have been spending time and energy warning them about the dangers of obtaining alcohol in certain ways. Yeah. I think we should bring back those commercials from the early 2000s, just in a different form. Something like this. The camera fades in. We see Mike melted into the sofa. You hear a voiceover. Mike! Mike! Hey, Mike! The camera pans to a normal-looking teenager who's like, he can't answer you. He won't. He's been like this ever since he got roofied by his hey mister. If only his parents would have bought him alcohol. He used to be a tall glass of Vode, now he's a puddle of Play-Doh. Sponsored by a Partnership for Responsible Underage Drinking. Guys, thank you so much for coming to my show. You guys. You guys have been a great audience. Really, this is my first solo show, so it means a lot to me. Thank you to Teachers Pub, wonderful venue for hosting. They've been great. And one more time, give it up for Umberto for opening. Guys, have a wonderful evening. Stick around. Let's all have a drink. I'll buy you a shot. I mean, maybe if like half of you say I can't buy all of you a shot. But yeah, stick around and thanks for coming.